Welcome to the Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast, where we will go beyond the balance sheet with our guests, not only to share from our personal experience as financial advisors of over 25 plus years, but also to learn from our guests about the issues and topics that are important to them. Our firm specializes in taking care of the financial plans for individuals and small businesses by helping our clients identify their individual goals and taking a conservative and ongoing approach to helping accomplish them. We are located in Hickory, North Carolina, and look forward to continuing to serve our clients and our community. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Southeast Retirement Planners Podcast. We're happy that you're joining us today. I'm Ryan Edwards here with Les Stewart, and we've got a great topic we think for today. It's what would you do with a windfall? And first thing that a lot of people probably comes to their mind is, hey, what if I win the lottery? But what we're talking about today is certainly, that could be the case, but more realistically, a windfall could be a inheritance, a business sale, any type of said liquidity event, if you would, and what's striking, and we're going to dive into this, is what kind of plays out from our perspective when these things happen. Is there's various scenarios that play out, regardless of what scenario of the windfall it is. So,
well, the first thing I do is give half of mine to you, Ryan, just because that's how.
Well, I think that would
how
be
much I like
a prudent financial decision on your.
But yeah, I mean, almost always what you see is there's some sort of often a splurge of some sort, some kind of spending that's not normal for the person that got the windfall, like that they haven't usually done in their budget.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say that none of that's wrong. The issue is what happens in the months immediately following right. that, and because the window often determines whether the windfall becomes the foundation of something bigger later on. Did they overcommit themselves? And did they, just make some limitations on themselves for the long run?
Right. And when I read this topic, what exactly is a windfall? And you talked about it a little bit, but a lot of times people think a windfall is I won the lottery, or something like that. But honestly, most of us at some point in our lives will experience some kind of windfall, and that could be $5 million from something like a lottery winning or a business sale or something like that, or it could be a windfall to some people is $50,000 or $10,000 from a bonus or something like that.
Tax refund, yeah.
Right. It's just relative to your situation.
Yeah, and I think it's it also strikes emotions when anything like that happens. It's all relative, like you say, but the emotional reaction and the advice we give are remarkably similar across the board whenever this occurs. What feels like a windfall is relative to each family's situation.
Right. And I mean, it really doesn't matter what the check or the money order or whatever says. It comes down to your specific situation, and there's some specific similar things that happen in a pattern with this that you need to look at.
Yeah, and the families that handle it the best are not necessarily the ones with the biggest numbers. They're the ones who pause, we see, and they ask the right questions,
right.
And make deliberate decisions before the money gets committed.
Right.
So we always tell clients the same thing. When a windfall is on the horizon or has just arrived, the first 90 days matter more than the next 10 years, if you will.
Yeah, and you think 90 days isn't a lot, but it really does matter. Yeah,
and it's in those early first few weeks, emotions tend to outpace strategy, and we see that over and over again.
So tell us how that looks.
Yeah, so lifestyle commitments, if you will, made for any plan is in place. Loans might be made to family members or close friends, maybe under emotional pressure. investment decisions may be made. Somebody comes up with a hot topic. A brother-in-law comes up with this great idea, or they hear some podcaster with this great idea. You might go out and make a knee-jerk reaction to make a big purchase.
Yeah.
And all these take place in real quick succession: a vacation, a renovation, maybe a new car,
Right.
and sometimes these occur within the first 6 months.
Right. Why is it always the brother-in-law
I
that's?
don't know. The brother-in-law always takes the fall. That's for sure. Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, sometimes people are just paralyzed by not knowing what to do, and they're not being efficient with the money they did inherit. It's just sitting there rotting in a checking account or something.
Yeah, kind of like analysis paralysis,
Yeah.
if you will. And that's the money arrives at the worst possible time. It's usually in the form of an inheritance when that occurs. It's such an emotional event, a strenuous time. And because of that, maybe there's some angst tied to that money, and sometimes that'll just sit for years.
Yeah.
In cases.
Right. And then there's a concept that I'm very familiar with. And I'll tell you how in a minute. But the house money effect. Money that you didn't expect, you didn't really work for to earn or anything like that. And the rational part of your brain says, it's just money I didn't need. And so you take bigger risks, you do spending and that kind of thing. And so how I'm familiar with that is, and many of you parents out there, just, give your kids an extra $50 one day and see how that money works. Or another thing is when you go someplace with your kids on vacation or something like that, and they have been working, their windfall is that you're going to spend all your money on them, right?
That's right. Yeah.
They're not going to spend their money.
It's amazing. So, and there's some data that backs this up. Roughly 72% of Americans say they don't feel confident managing a windfall. Their overall ability to manage that influx of money.
Yeah, but a lot of those people feel very confident to, when they do receive a windfall or something, to give a chunk of it away. So. Yeah.
And it brings us to the patterns, and because after enough of these, you start to recognize some of those patterns pretty quickly.
Right. So there's 5 patterns. You want to walk us through those?
Yeah. The first one we're going to call is the lifestyle leap, and the lifestyle leap is you jumping into a lifestyle leap. I kind of alluded to it. A new house, you upgrade your cars. You double your vacation budget. None of that's necessarily inherently wrong, but we've watched a number of clients that commit to lifestyle expenses that require ongoing income to maintain.
Right.
They make a big home purchase, and all of a sudden it takes a whole lot of money to run that. Taxes, maintenance, upkeep, just overall. And they what they find is that windfall itself does not generate enough return to support that lifestyle. Forever.
Yeah.
And I got a story. A client received a $3.5 million inheritance, and over the next 18 months, they committed a vacation home, a boat, a private school for 3 of their kids, and a major renovation. So none of those were, really reckless per se.
Right.
But what they did is they locked up, in essence, more than half of their principal. And I've got in my notes here the carrying costs on that, $180,000 per year. $180,000 per year. So basically, a windfall that could have basically been generational became very comfortable.
Right. Comfortable's fine.
Yeah,
but
it's great, but you need to know what you're choosing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
well, what's the second pattern?
The family first impulse. So the pressure to share a windfall with maybe your adult children, your siblings, parents, old friends. The pressure there can be pretty intense, and generosity is one of the most beautiful things of having a windfall. And there's a real difference between strategic gifting with kind of the proper documentation and tax awareness, and just writing checks just for the sake of writing checks in the first few weeks, with no because you don't want to feel stingy
Right.
with the money, if
Right.
you will.
Well, it's worth noting that in 2026, the annual gift with tax exclusion, so giving money to someone in your family without being causing a tax situation is $19,000 per person, or $38,000 for a married couple. So when you're thinking about giving, you want to large sums. You want to talk with your tax professional and your advisors and that kind of thing to make sure that you're staying in that window.
Right. Definitely. And do it the right way. So.
That's right.
A third pattern is the do-it-yourself investor, and windfalls have a way of somehow generating investment confidence. And you can see, someone receives $800,000 and suddenly feels that they can manage it themselves.
Yeah.
Whereas, they maybe asking for help feels like they're admitting that they don't have the knowledge or don't know what they're doing, if you will.
Yeah, and studies show that about 20% of Americans say they would look for guidance from a financial professional. So just only 20% would seek help.
So I feel like that's a real shame, because the investment decisions that are from a windfall are often much more complex than one's person than a person may have been making just with what's in their normal savings.
Right. And so the fourth pattern probably is the hardest one to talk about.
Yeah, the sudden wealth syndrome, and that's the term's coined by basically a psychologist, Stephen Goldbart, in the 90s, and it describes the psychological and emotional distress that can come when an unexpected windfall occurs, like anxiety, guilt, social dislocation. Sometimes people have difficulty trusting people around them.
Yeah. And for inheritors, a lot of times when you're inheriting something, it's because someone unfortunately has passed away.
It's close to
and so you've got the grief of that. What would they want me to do, and all that kind of thing. And so it leads to probably not making the greatest decisions.
Right, and that's where that cost of paralysis kind of sets in, and money sitting in a checking account is losing ground and to inflation basically every month.
Yep. And then we're on to the fifth pattern now.
And this is where the clients who get it right tend to share a few of the same traits. They're willing to talk honestly and openly about money with their family. They're curious rather than embarrassed about what they don't know.
Right.
They have a clear sense of what they want to do with what their wealth, what they want it to do. And
right.
They have they intentionally go about and strategically go about the process, and they're very careful to not let recurring lifestyle expenses creep up on them.
Yeah, which is important, because once you put those expenses in motion, they're really hard to pull back on, change your lifestyle back to the old situation and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so this, why is this conversation about windfall so urgent right now? And because it's going to shape out over the next 2 decades for a lot of families. There's some research that's been done on
right. So Cerulli's now projecting that $124 trillion in assets will change hands through 2048. And nearly 100, I think you can see it on the screen here, nearly 100 trillion of that will move from baby boomers and the silent generation to their heirs.
And more than half of that, around $62 trillion, is expected to come from high net worth and ultra high net worth households. And about $18 trillion of the total is expected to flow to charitable causes.
Right. So, the timing matters. Generation X is projected to inherit, what does it say here, $14 trillion in the next decade. And they'll be receiving it at a pretty complicated time in their lives. A lot of them are already taken, and I'm one of them, so a lot of us will already be taking care of some aging parents, and in the meantime, they're still paying for their adult children at the time as well.
Things, yeah. So, and millennials are the largest group of inheritors. So over the full 25-year window, that is an estimated $46 trillion will be going to the millennials.
Yeah. So if you're
By
in
2048.
if you're in that group, you got something to look forward to, don't you?
I guess so. Yeah. Yes, I would say so.
So if you're in your 50s or 60s and your parents are aging, the question is no longer if, but it's whether and when I'm going to, or if I'm going to inherit, but when am I going to experience some kind of windfall in most cases.
And if you're on the giving side of this, the questions are different. Have you set your heirs up to receive your wealth wisely? If you're listening to us and you're kind of on the, like I said, what I just mentioned is if you're on the older side of this and have you positioned yourself correctly with the right documentation? Have you had the right conversations? Met with your attorneys and know what assets are going to
right.
transfer where and to who?
Right. So most of our clients and people that come to see us, they certainly don't want to leave a financial mess for their heirs, or their children, or their grandchildren. But they oftentimes, when they come to see us, have not done the work up front to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, that's let's kind of keep going here, if you will, and we'll look to go, kind of more practical and give you some ways here. So there's 5 steps, and we'll walk. There's 5 steps, and we'll walk every client through them. So.
So to start with the first one.
Yeah. This. Well, first of all, let's secure the funds. Okay. If you come into a windfall, secure the funds before you decide anything. Right. Receive the money, park it somewhere safe. Do not commit to anything in the first few weeks.
Right.
The single most powerful financial decision you can make in those early days is no decision at all.
So you want to kind of pump the brakes, let the dust settle a little bit, and kind of then make some good decisions later.
Right. And step 2 is getting the right people in the room. So that might be a financial professional, an advisor, a tax, a legal or accounting professional, or maybe an estate attorney. To help and develop identify what needs to go on. And these professionals can work together. Many times we've kind of quarterbacked that situations.
Right.
Those situations where we get the people in the room together at the same time with the client,
right.
and we coordinate what needs to take place first, and
right.
make sure the right people are taking care of what they need to take care of.
Yeah, and you need to be careful if you're just working with one of those groups of people, the professionals that you talked about there, because not everybody knows everything. Everybody has their own specialty and knowledge, and so you don't want to make the mistake of just using one of those sources.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen some instances like that, and that does happen often. So the step 3 is naming the why. What is the money actually there for? Is it for retirement? Is it helping your children? Is it you want to leave a legacy gift, or is it a mix of all 3? So
right.
you need to articulate, really a purpose for that, and it may not come on day 1 or the first week. So that's why it's really important to pump the brakes and make sure that you make better decisions across the board. And it's really hard if without a why, every decision is going to kind of feel, just not have real true meaning.
Right. So, okay. So step 4 is what?
Yeah, so cover the basics and look at the full financial picture. Are there any high-interest debts, any that are worth paying down? Is the emergency fund, is it where you need to, is it where it needs to be? Are there's any insurance coverages that are appropriate? Is the estate plan still aligned with what the family looks like today? These questions get skipped in the rush to make big moves,
right.
And that's something that needs to. Those things need to be taken into consideration.
Okay. And this last one is the one I like the most.
Yeah. So build a spending permission slip. So we tell clients to designate a small percentage of the windfall. I mean, you got to get it out of your system, basically.
Right.
Is maybe dedicate 3 to 5% of that windfall and just guilt-free spend and enjoy that money. Take a trip, do a renovation you've been meaning to do, a meaningful gift to each adult child, whatever it is.
Yeah. So, even if you're blowing it, you're purposefully blowing it, right?
Right.
So you have a purpose for it.
Yeah, and if you don't give yourself permission to enjoy a piece of it, basically all this psychological pressure is going to build up, and it's just going to not. You're going to over time, that's what's going to cause some impulse decisions to happen, and having naming the fun part as part of the plan just basically takes the pressure off.
Right. And windfalls are supposed to have some joy to them, not just stressful.
Yeah. So, also you need to have some conversations within the family. One is because a windfall is not just going to affect one person.
Right.
It's going to affect everyone in the family.
Right. And, those are not easy conversations. They're some of the hardest to have, actually.
Yeah, and they are, but we encourage clients to think about who in their life needs to know that and when. Adult children may need to understand that their inheritance picture is changing down the road. Aging parents may need to, know that their adult child is now in a different financial position.
Right.
And then siblings may need to have clarity that there's a shared family money dynamic in play.
Yeah, and I've seen it in other people's and even personally, where if you don't have those hard conversations about that stuff, it can cause some problems down the road that you didn't see coming.
Yeah, and usually years later, like you said,
right.
Adult children, they can assume there's more coming and structure their lives accordingly and plan ahead for themselves. But siblings who feel blindsided by gifts that went one direction,
right?
Maybe have some angst, or
right.
Parents who hear about a windfall through someone else. There's some pretty significant issues there.
Yeah, and really a lot of that could be just avoided if you just had a couple discussions that may not be easy, but intentional discussions.
Yeah, and you don't have to share every number. You just have to acknowledge that something's changed and maybe just start the dialogue, if you will.
Right. So if you're listening to this and a windfall is on the horizon, or hey, you've just received one, and the most important thing you can do right now is just kind of slow down, pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, receive the money, get the right people in the room, and name what the money's for, cover the basics, and give yourself permission to enjoy a piece of it.
Right.
Like we talked about.
And a windfall is one of the moments in life that how you handle it on the front end in a short period of time can really change the trajectory of how your financial life and personal life is way down the road. So, you need to be careful about how you handle it. That's right.
It can be better. We've seen both many times.
That's right. So if you want help thinking through what this looks like with your family, we this is exactly the kind of work that we do. We help you work through your options and that kind of thing. So you reach out anytime. Yeah,
certainly. We appreciate you attending today, and thank you for listening. And we, check out our website. You can find our other podcast there as well. And if you would love to sit down and talk about your overall financial situation, you can find out all that information at www.seretirementplanners.com or call our office at 828-855-2067 to set up your complimentary financial, what we call checkup, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member of FINRA, SIPC. Southeast Retirement Planners is not affiliated with LPL Financial or registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor.